this whole drive I've had to being perfect has actually just almost held me back from a lot of the other steps in my life.
So the idealized self that believes you need to have and achieve all of this stuff, it's a disaster. People see the car, the house, the lifestyle, and they don't see the pain.
That was a big problem in our relationship, was my infertility and the issues that we had. And a lot of that's all linked to my lifestyle.
Here's the heart of the matter. You can't have it all. It's not about giving up on the things that matter to you. It's choosing the things that matter most and actually being successful at those things.
Welcome to episode 3 of In Therapy with me, Alex Howard. I'm relieved for the feedback we've had on the first 2 episodes. So thank you people for sharing, for your comments and your thoughts. And yeah, we're super excited to see how this evolves and develops. So for today's episode, we have the final installment of Lauren's first session. And we're sort of following on from episode 2. I was talking about this idea of the idealized self. In this episode, we're starting to explore the authentic self. And I also set Lauren some homework, which you guys at home might even want to follow along with as well, to send her away with to put into action some of what we've talked about in this first session. So here is Lauren.
When we try to fill a hole on the inside with getting stuff on the outside, the more stuff we get on the outside and the more it doesn't really fill the hole on the inside, the more traumatic and the more damaging it becomes. Which is why you see people have global success in the music industry or as actors, actresses, and they end up on drugs or they end up having breakdowns because no longer does the story stand that if I could just get there, then I'll be happy. How I conceptualize this is we all have a authentic self. We all have a true self, which is our true, honest desires and gifts and potential, and that is often has many elements of this idealized or what I call inflated self. It's just we're not defining our self-worth by that stuff. So it's not that you do this next piece of work and you reshift your relationship to yourself and you heal your relationship to yourself, and then suddenly you're like, yeah, I'm just going to get a really boring, dull 9-to-5 office job, and I'm just going to join the local a bingo hall, not anything wrong with bingo, and live a kind of life that has no drama and excitement to it. It's just that you shift in your relationship to it. So rather than your self-worth being defined by becoming that, you may draw pleasure and fun from having challenge and adventure, but because you're not doing it from a deficient place, your kind of happiness and your calmness of your nervous system is not tied to the outcome and the endless achievement of that. And one makes more sensible compromises. You kind of go, well, actually, if I want to have a baby, for example, actually, I'm not going to kill myself in the gym, and I'm not going to spend half of my life jet lagged, and I'm not going to be in a relationship that doesn't feel emotionally nurturing and being seen. Because actually, if I was a baby, I wouldn't want to come into that body. So if the thing that one really wants in life, for example, is to have a baby, it's like, well, how do you create a life which really is your body's going to be in the place where it's going to be ready to bring forth that life.
It's funny you talk about that because that was a big problem in our relationship, was my infertility and the issues that we had. And a lot of that's all linked to my lifestyle and the damage I've done to my body. And I think there's probably a little bit of resentment from my partner because, it'd only come out when he'd a bit drunk, but he'd be like, what, baby, you can't, you messed up your body so badly, look where we are, kind of thing. And it's so true. I did this whole drive I've had to being perfect has actually just almost held me back from a lot of the other steps in my life.
Yeah. I mean, here's the heart of the matter. You can't have it all.
I think I'm starting to realise that. I think if you said that to me 3 months ago, I would have, or I don't know where I was 3 months ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I would have been like, I'm bloody well can have it all.
Yeah. Fuck you,
I
Alex.
will have it. Yeah, I'd be like, anybody tells me I can't have it all, but I'm in and I think a lot of my social group would also be like, what do you mean? We all want to have it all.
Yeah.
And I think I'm having to make such a big shift, not just in my internal, but also my external.
Yeah.
I can't be in the same environments that I was, because immediately there's a little bit of me is like, oh, I want that. I want to be that person. I envy that person. Oh, this is what I could have. Almost like I live in a smaller town now. I'm out of London. It's been really healthy for me because I don't have that. It's not like my competitive side isn't getting kind of triggered all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't think I want it all anymore. I think, I'm, working towards not wanting it all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also important to say that, as I touched on earlier, that drive towards this idealized self, like this person I feel like I need to become. I was saying that the more dysfunction, the more the fuel towards that drive. Another way of putting it is that we've got our authentic self, but if we're not living that authentic self in our life, and if we didn't get the emotional holding and stability and support that we needed as a child, which a lot of us didn't, then we end up feeling like this deficient, diminished self. Like we end up feeling a bit small and a bit like the world's kind of scary and we're not quite sure how we fit in. How do we deal with that diminished, deficient self? We become the inflated self. So the way to kind of start to bring it together a bit more, the way to work with it is there's a kind of two-pronged approach to it. Firstly, we have to penetrate with your awareness this idealized self. So we have to sort of start to see through and start to loosen the grip of that idealized self. And that's already been happening a certain amount anyway. And I'm going to set you some homework to facilitate and help that process more. But we also then need to heal that self, which actually the reason why we're going into that inflated self is that sense of the kind of deficient, smaller, not being enough self. And if we can do some of the deeper healing around that, and that's your relationship with yourself, that's your relationship with your emotions, that's your relationship with the world, that the more we heal that, the more you naturally feel like the authentic self, then you don't need to compensate. You don't need to become the kind of like the perfect house, the perfect car, the perfect children, the perfect family, because you're not trying to compensate from this sense of not really feeling like enough in the first place.
I almost felt like it was like this ramping up all the time, like this need for more. And the more it wasn't making me happy, the more I needed more.
Yeah.
And it's like it kind of all gets out of control a little bit. You get quite greedy.
Yeah, it's never enough because you're coming from a place of deficiency, and it becomes very painful and it becomes very frustrating as well. And actually, the more stuff that we achieve and the more we still don't get what we want, the more we just chase and chase. And it's emotionally, it's a very, very painful place from which to live. And that's also where people don't see that. People see the car, the house, the lifestyle, and they don't see the pain. The way that you've been living, in a way, as much as it may look like it was a really exciting, wonderful life, and I don't want to be black and white. I'm sure there were things about it that were amazing, and it sounds like you've had some great experiences, and there's positive in that as well. But your relationship with yourself was abusive. It was a form of self-abuse, the level of demand that you're putting on yourself.
It's funny you mention that, because I used to self-harm, and obviously I think having eating disorders and being bulimic and stuff is a form of self-harm.
Yeah.
But you get treated for all those things and you think you've recovered, but I think in a way sometimes you don't fix everything if you don't go deep enough. It's almost like you recreate them in other ways, because I'm only now kind of thinking, well, actually my gymming was also, exercise was probably also a bit of kind of self-harm and everything, because I'd be so tired and I'd just drag myself there and I'd force myself through a workout because I thought I had to look a certain way or lose extra weight or whatever, but it was getting to the point where it was so painful, yet I was still forcing it. And I'd get migraines regularly because of it. So I'd go, I think, no, I'm going to go do some exercise, I'd get a migraine. And that's actually what forced me to stop in the end, was just getting such bad migraines. I should have actually stopped a lot of things when that happened, but it's all like a form of self-harm in a way.
And it's good that you see that, because it's like the story we sell ourselves is, no, I'm just chasing my dreams and I'm just being ambitious and I'm just, I'm having a kind of can-do attitude and going after what I want. But actually what's really happening is a part inside of you that doesn't love you as you are, thinks you're not enough, and thinks that you're only lovable if you get that, is constantly cracking a whip, driving you to try and become that person. And that is self-abusive. It's not about giving up on the things that matter to you. It's choosing the things that matter most and actually being successful at those things.
Prioritizing, right?
Right.
Like, what? Yeah, I was never very good at that.
Right.
I was never good at prioritizing myself or what was good for me. I would always prioritize everybody else's needs, or wants to be at work or home or whatever. It was always about everybody else and never about what was good for me.
Right. Right. So I have some homework for you.
Okay, I haven't had homework for a while.
So the first part of the homework is we've sort of been touching on already, but I want you to take some time to kind of inquire into, and you can do this kind of reflecting. It's often helped to write things down, and it would be a good way of doing it. Who is the person that you thought you had to become? And we've talked about it a bit, but more detail would be good. To then look at who is the person that you now think you need to become, because that image will have changed, but there's still going to be facets of that old image in the new image. So I'm really curious as to like what that looks like at this point in time.
Yeah.
And then the next part is to take some time to reflect on what does it feel like your relationship is like with yourself now. So that means you're listening to your feelings and emotions, listening to your body, listening to your kind of values of kind of like how, like just day to day, how are you relating to yourself? And there's different ways you can do that. Again, you could do a kind of diary each day around it. You could look for particular patterns. But right now, I'm particularly focused on just building awareness around what's happening. And that'll kind of open up the next kind of part of the conversation in terms of where we go. Obviously, keep doing the things that you're doing are working. So in a sense, I'm deliberately not focusing too much attention on the chronic fatigue piece right now, because I feel like the chronic fatigue piece just needs more. You need to have more time on the track that you're on. You've got the pacing relatively, in balance. It sounds like you're doing some good stuff in terms of calming your system overall. It sounds like the nutrition stuff is in place. So a lot of that stuff is good. As I said a bit earlier, I'm looking at how do we protect the path that we're on, but what's the deeper work that needs to happen that was kind of a cause of this and is in danger of hijacking the process and is the piece that's going to be super important coming out the other side of this.
That is kind of like this little like niggling fear of mine is like, what am I going to do to fuck this up?
Yeah.
What self-sabotage thing have I got waiting in the sidelines to come in and like...
I mean, if I'm going to be totally honest with you, you are a prime candidate for relapsing if you don't deal with this issue, which is why I'm kind of focusing where I am. It's like, of course, when you do my job, you spot the patterns and you spot the kind of characters, and this kind of really vicious achiever driving pattern, it is absolutely possible to transform and change it, but untransformed, as soon as you start to get your capacity back, you're going to be off like a rocket, and we need to get that in balance. So you really do mine the lessons from this experience, because this has the opportunity to be an enormously important turning point in your life. If I compare the path that you were on and the path that you could now go on, it's a difference between a life of silent misery and suffering and a life of genuinely being happy and living a life that really does bring you joy. So there's a massive opportunity here, and it's important that this piece of work is done. Any questions?
No, I don't think so. There's a lot of information. Quite tired now, to be honest.
Yeah,
so.
I'm sure.
But I didn't think there was that much more insights to get out of everything, because I've been doing so much self-development and reading audiobooks and everything. But it's amazing how talking to someone like this, you still get more out of than you do reading books and stuff. You need to have the two-way thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. You're welcome.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. That concludes Lauren's, just her first session. So we're going to continue with Lauren's story in a few weeks' time. On Thursday's episode, we're going to meet Sally. And Sally's story is interesting because she actually, before we started filming, her and I started filming sessions, she did an in-person workshop that we do at the Optimum Health Clinic called the 90-Day Program. She actually vlogged her own experience through that. So it's going to start a bit differently to Lauren's first 3 episodes, but I think it's going to give you another insight into the therapeutic journey that people go on. If you're enjoying these episodes, we'd love your support. And there's a few ways you can do that. Firstly, just share your comments. If you've got questions for me, if there's things that you like, things you think we can improve about these episodes, please do comment in the comments below. Just remember, these are real people, and please be respectful of anything you say about the people in the episodes. If you like the video, that tells the YouTube algorithm to show it to more people. We'd really appreciate that. And if you subscribe to the channel here on YouTube, and also if you click the notification bell, you'll get notifications when we release new episodes. Again, it also tells YouTube to show this series to more people. And we're really keen to really get these ideas out there. And really what I'm trying to do is inspire people that we all struggle. We all have challenges and difficulties in life. But going on a therapeutic journey, it doesn't make us weak. What it actually does is it shows us how strong we are, and it helps us grow the courage to make changes in our lives. Thanks for watching.
It's really easy to think, why me? Why has this happened to me? When you look at it the way that we looked at it today, it makes so much sense. It's amazing what the mind and the body can sort of achieve when they work together and they connect. It's going to be a lot of work, loads of work actually, but I'm ready and I'm looking forward to the challenge. Yeah, I do get the symptoms still, but I just feel like I can cope with them so much better and I can sort of reverse them, which is amazing.